Hi, this is Michael with Authorify, and I recently wrapped up a series of interviews with our members dealing specifically with inherited home listings. We touched on a wide variety of topics, but for this video in particular, I wanted to highlight three of those topics. The first one is really just how to handle what can be a very emotionally charged listing. You know, the home sellers recently went through a loss in their family, and emotions can be raw. So take a look at what our members had to say.
It's just such a unique experience whenever you're working with them because it's one of those bittersweet you get to walk through. And when you do that, in my experience anyways, you listen to them talk about all the times that they had in that house and everything. So it's kind of like being empathetic and being there to support them and try to celebrate the life that they had. And just kind of walk through and listen to them. And if you listen and relate, that's actually how I got one of the listings, is because they're like, oh, you're the only one that has actually let us talk about everything that's happened. And I think that's important for them to be able to get that closure.
You know, as agents, we love to talk and we have, our script in our head and everything else, but it's about being quiet and listening to the client's needs and coming from contribution. And if we put that in our mind first and foremost all the time, then we'll always have happy clients.
You really are doing such a service to families and people, and you are helping them heal. And, hopefully it takes what I'm doing, I'm looking at as like maybe taking one of those issues off so that a family can come back together, because when you have the divide and trying to figure out what to do with this house and how to do this, and well, why did mom say that they get to be in charge? And, you have all those different emotions that, I just find that very, rewarding as part of my job.
So up next, we talked about the issue of pricing inherited homes. That can be a tricky subject, and here's what our members had to say about that.
What I normally do is I will say to them, envision a buyer coming into this house, buyers buy off emotion. So we really want to neutralize the space so that they can envision themselves and their family in here. We want to put away personal items, photographs, memorabilia. And I always say to them, it's a good idea to start packing from now. And I'll walk the house with them. I normally do a free staging consultation. Sometimes it's good to have a neutral party come in if you don't feel comfortable with having that conversation yourself. Because it definitely helps to get the seller on board and help them to understand the process of neutralizing the space and making it less personal, because especially with older sellers and people that are dealing with grief, everything is personal to them, and that space does hold so much memories.
You have to try to take some of that emotion out whenever you do talk to them about the price. And, I would tell them, yeah, it's priceless, and all of those. But what you're trying to put a price on are your memories that you've had here. And you have those memories to take with you. Like, that's the one thing no one could take away. Look at it realistically. If a tornado came through, if we had a hurricane and this house was wiped out, what would you have to spend to put it back? And that's what you're looking at when you want to talk about the value. And I also tell them to look at it, the market value is only what somebody's willing to pay for it.
I just show them the data for what the type of the property has and how that's sold. So if they have if they grew up in the house in the 70s or 80s and they have certain memories there, well, I still have to show them properties that were built in the 70s and 80s and what they're selling for. The memories for a new family moving in, they don't have them yet. So the value is the dollar of the house and not their intrinsic value that the family members might have. And that's just that's just the way it works. And they just have to start understanding that. But it might take a week or two for them to come to that realization.
I do like to do my traditional, here are three things. If you want this for your house, then you need to do X, Y, and Z. If you just want to paint and do a few things, you can get this for the house. If you want to sell it just as it sits and do nothing, this is what we're going to get. So you have a range to choose from, and then I let them, talk about it to decide. Top houses are immaculate. Like you're going to have to paint, maybe update the flooring, update the countertops, and put, $5,000 or $10,000 into it to get this price. If you look around and you go, well, the baseboards need painting, the walls need painting, and just really give it all a good cleaning, scrub the windows and everything, you're going to spend maybe $1,000, $2,000. We can price it right here. If you want to sell it just as is and you don't want to put anything into it, then here's really the bottom line value of your home. And so they have the range from here to here, and then they can pick what they want to do to upgrade it, where they want to price it, and see what happens.
And finally, we talked about dealing with multiple parties. Not only do you have all the family members involved, but you also have attorneys a lot of times. Check out what Marie had to say.
I would say just really be prepared to be a great listener, to be able to hear the emotions and hear, what they're actually saying and how they're feeling, so you can make the connection and help them start, seeing that just because the house goes away doesn't mean the memories go away. Being easy when you kind of go into something instead of being very forceful. I mean, you do have to be direct, but how you go about saying it and doing it makes a huge difference with them, because it is all emotional with them for the most part. You might have one or two of them that are just looking at a number sense, like, let's get rid of this house and let's just move on. Especially if you have one family member that was there taking care of someone, or that was there all the time, and someone that lives out of state. Right. So you have to be able to put different hats on whenever you're there. But listening will help you figure out how to deal with each person. And they're not all good. Not all family members get along. So, it's trying to bridge that gap and trying to get them to all come to an agreement, because when you can't get them all to become to that agreement, there's no deal, because it's all or none. That's not majority rules.
So I hope you found that helpful. I do want to say thank you to our members that shared their insight with us, and I'll see you on the next video.